Hey guys, it is Carl Brown from GuitaristSense365.com. Have a new one for you today. We're going to do the new Tool song, Fear Inoculum. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Usually I don't say that kind of thing correctly. But yeah, it's a fun song. Got a lot involved with a lot of riffs, a lot of sections, over 10 minutes long, you know, which means I got my work cut out for me here. But we're going to do the whole thing, all right? So we're going to start here. We are in drop D tuning, by the way. So just take your low E string, tune it down a whole step to D, and you'll be good to go and ready to follow on with the lesson and the actual recording. Before we get into the lesson, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell too, so you'll know when I release a new video, as long as you have notifications enabled for YouTube on your phone. Also check out my Guitar Academy. It's at the guitarlessons365.com. It's all my original guitar courses from technique, improvisation, guitar tone, all sorts of good stuff. So we got a good community over there. Hopefully you'll join it. All right, so let's jump into it here. Now, this little intro section here, Adam Jones uses a volume pedal. I'm not a huge fan of using volume pedals for swells. I think I get better control with the actual volume knob on the guitar. But he's using a pedal, so feel free to use a pedal, kind of make it like the... So I don't control it too well though, so I don't practice it that way. I practice it with the actual volume knob. So just, fair warning, I'm going to be using the knob. Anyway, so let's do these volume swells. Now, we have this little melody that goes on the 6th string. All right, so let's get those notes down first. We have 7. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of hammering on and then swelling in the note, the volume. And then I'll turn it back to 0, and then the next note, hammer it on, and then turn the volume up on that one. So you always have to turn the volume, even if you're using the volume knob or the pedal, you have to take it back down to 0 before each note's played, and then just swell it in. So you do that, 7, 10, 5, 7, and 10. So that's the main melody. And the first time you hear the melody there, you're going to hear that he just kind of holds on that 10 there. And then when he repeats the melody, he'll add this new note, this little pickup note at the very end that he'll always do for the rest of the time. It looks like this. So I'm sorry. See a little. So it's the same melody, except right when we're getting ready to start over, do a real quick volume swell on the 5th fret there, and then start over. So what you're going to do here is the easiest way to know, there's a little variation that comes up where he does this. He goes all the way up to 12. So that's just that 7, 10, 5, 7, 10, 12. And then you start back over. So the easiest way to know when to do that, add that little 12, is to think when we first come in, we're going to play the riff 8 times. Obviously, the very first time is a little bit different, 1 note less, but we'll consider all those 8 times through, right? Actually, let's make it even easier. You play the entire riff 12 times. The 7th time and the 12th time you play it will be the times that you add the 12th fret. All the other ones are just like this. And if you add the 12, so that is only going to happen twice at the beginning. Then we get to, after you've done that, we do kind of the same thing, but we're doing power chord swells. So what you're going to do is, instead of just playing the 7th fret on it's the low drop D string here now, you're going to play the 7th fret on the A string as well with it. So So hammer both of those notes on. So that's the riff. So it's the same fingerings as before. Obviously, we're playing 2 strings now. The first time through. And then when we start over, we're going to do the version where we move up to the 12. And then just kind of hold on that and then start over. And you're going to do it twice. Now, if you've done that whole section twice, then you'll slide into the 7s there, and you're done with the little power, this kind of volume swell intro there. All right, and there's no guitar now until we get to the 2-minute and 21-second mark, and we have this little riff that happens. I'm giving the whether I kind of timed it, they're kind of similar even on Spotify or YouTube, the official video on YouTube. The best way to really kind of go through this stuff, since there's a lot of riffs that get thrown at us from every direction, so just to tell you the exact minute and second mark of because there's not a lot of, verse, chorus, pre-chorus, the Tool doesn't lay their songs out like that. So we have this. All right, so that riff comes in at the 2-minute and 21-second mark. So it's going to start with the open A string, over to 2 on the D. Then you're going to play 3 on the A string, back to that 2 on the D. So with this. Back to the 3 on the A string, and then you're going to do a quick hammer on from 0 to 2 on the D. So we have this. And the second time through, it's a little bit different. So the only difference here is it's going to start the same, open A, 2nd fret on the D string. Except now when you go to the C note here, the 3rd fret on the A string, the note on the D string will now be open. But it's the same pattern after that. Still get that same hammer on. So we have this all together. Repeat. All right, now at the 2-minute and 42-second mark, we jump into this new riff that sounds like this. So that's going to be the open A string, and then you're going to play the 7th fret on the D string, kind of a slight bend and release, kind of a half-step bend and release, and pull off to the 5. So you can do that while the A is still ringing. And then back to the 7th fret there, a few bend and release there, pull off to 5, and then hammer back on to 7. Repeat. All right, so after that we go back to the power chord version of the volume swells that we did earlier. So we do that, so nothing new there. And then at the 3-minute and 35-second mark, we have this really cool riff that kind of jumps around a little bit and has an interesting kind of a little pitch kind of thing happening there, which I'll talk about in a second. I'm going to do it with the bar, which obviously he's not because he's probably using a Les Paul, and I'll explain how he's doing it too. So this happens at the 3 minute and 35 second mark. All right, so if there's a pre-chorus in the song, that's probably it. Now, I have that little, when I take the bar at the very beginning, that first open A string, and I have a little slight pitch bend there. Now, he's probably doing that with the neck pulling back like a lot of people with Les Pauls do. They'll hit the note, and they'll try to break their guitar neck in half and just kind of pull it backwards to kind of raise the pitch. Obviously, I don't have to do that because I have a bar, but that's probably what he's doing. And then we're gonna pull off 2 to 0 on the D string. Then jump up here to the 10th fret there on the low D string. Then pull off 7 to 0 on the D string, and now it's 5th fret on the low D string. And then pull off 2 to 0 on the, I guess, high D now. So, So it's a really delicate little pitch bend. I actually don't think he does it every single time, but it is there. So I'm assuming that's how he's doing it. We're just kind of bending back there with the actual note. So if you want to kind of make it sound just like it, if you have a bar, it's going to be very easy for you to do. All right, so from there, we have what's probably going to be called the chorus, if we have a chorus, 3 minute and 56 second mark. Looks like this. All right, so that right there is going to start with an A power chord, open A power chord. That a couple of times. And then real quick, we're going to have a little pickup here. We're going to hit the open D and G strings together. And then hammer on the 2nd fret on both the D and the G together. So. From there, we're going to take it to this C chord. Just play the 3rd fret on the A string, 2nd fret on the D, and sometimes you might hear that open G string in there as well. So it's really these 2 notes that you really want in there. So we have this. And then you do that little hammer on again. Then you take it to the power chord here off the 3rd fret of the low D string. So it's just the 3rd fret across the bottom 3 strings. Little hammer on again. And then the same power chord shape at the 5th fret. So we have this. And then we're going to do this. 0, 2 on the A string, and then pull off 2 to 0 on the D. So that's going to end the riff. We're going to repeat it now. So we have this. B. Now the 4th time through, we're going to add a little ending to it, and we're going to stop kind of halfway in, between the riff here to do that. So we have all right, so that is, so we played still the A power chord, that's the little hammer on, into the C, and then when we do the hammer on this time, instead of going to the that power chord, we're going to instead go into the bottom 3 strings power chord. So the D power chord, and then we're going to go 3, 10, 5, 7. All right. Then at the 4 minute and 37 second mark, there's a little fill that happens in there. A lot of effects on it too, and it's just some kind of volume swells again, and that's just at 7, 5, 3 on the A string, doing the volume swells, and then the 5th fret there on the low D string, and then slide up to 7. All right, so from there, we're at the 4 minute and 40 second mark. We're back to the swells that we've already covered, the volume swells. But then at the 5 minute and 1 second mark, we have the, I guess what we called it before, the pre-chorus come back in, with that riff that kind of jumped around a lot. But it's a little bit different the second time you hear it in the song. It plays that riff 4 times and then goes to the... the previous riff that we played at the 2 minute and 21 second mark, then it goes into that, and that makes up the second half of the riff. So the first half you're going to play 4 times through with the that little jumping around riff, and then 4 times with that other riff, or I guess maybe twice through with that. So it looks like this altogether. So it's a subtle little difference, but it's quite apparent that it's there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention so you didn't skip around and just play that little skip around riff the entire time. All right, and then we get back at the 5 minute and 23 second mark. We get back to the chorus, but this chorus has a little bit of an extended ending. So let me play for it real quick. All right, so it started with the same ending. And then it kind of just repeated the same thing again, except the last chord, we don't go to the 7, we just go to the open strings. So the open D chord, and then back to the same ending as before. So that's just a kind of a little extended version of the chorus there. All right, now at the 5 minute and 51 second mark, we go back to something similar to that little bend riff that we did earlier. Except this time, he adds an extra little lick to it, so it makes it a little bit longer than before. So it looks like this now. This is the 5 minute 51 second mark. So you can see it's a little bit longer there. So it's the same at the beginning. So up here, we're going to hit the A string again and add a little, it's kind of pre-bent, but I got to kind of watch for that stuff on this guitar because when I bend up, the A string kind of goes out of tune. You can see there, so I'm trying to avoid that, but you can kind of pre-bend this last note. Pull off the 5, and then hammer back on 7. So all together. Repeat. And then at the 6 minute and 26-second mark, he stops playing it like that and does like a muted version of the riff. Looks like this. So. So that's just the open A string. It's kind of muted, half muted. You can still hear the notes, but he's still letting them ring out a little bit. So it's the open A, and then 7, 5, 7 on the D string. And then I kind of bend and release, pull off to 5, hammer back to 7. Hit the open A string, and then do that little lick again. For this. So after you've done it like 4 times, he starts letting up that muting a little bit and playing. And when you play that first note, you'll hear a little bend and release on that one too. So he starts kind of building it up dynamically. So that after about 4 times through, you'll start hearing this. So pretty simple to play, but these little tiny details that Adam Jones liked to kind of play, these slight variations, are the things that kind of really kind of push the song along dynamically. So he's brilliant at that. All right, 7 minutes and 1 second into the track, we have this riff, which is relatively easy. All right, so it's just those power chords across the 3 bottom strings. So 7, 0, then 10, let that ring, and then 10, 0, 7. So they do that all together twice. All right, and that takes us to the 7 minute and 19 second part, and we have another muted riff that sounds like this. Okay, so it's kind of that riff just repeated. Now, I'm going to show you a way to kind of count this. Go to all downstrokes, heavily palm muted. You might want to roll your volume knob off a little bit, kind of lighten it up a touch. So we're here at the 7th fret on the low D string. And you're going to pick that 4 times, 4 downstrokes. Okay? So that's one of the patterns here. So it's going to just start with that little 4-note pattern there. And then what we're going to have is this. So that's that 7 is played. It's another pattern of 4 except the first 3 on the 7th fret. And then the last one there is on the 5th fret. Okay? So really what I want you to see is this is the beginning of the repetitive pattern that we're going to have. Is that little 4-note part right there. That part right there. Because from there, we're going to play 4 more downstrokes there after it on that 7. So we have, so the actual beginning of the pattern is this. So it's kind of like 8 notes together there. And then we do 4 again by them, a little pattern of 4 by itself on that 7th fret. And then one more time on that 7th fret. So basically, when we got to that little 8-note version of the pattern where we did a little shift there, that's what I want you to see is the beginning of the pattern so you can memorize this. So it's this little 8-note version with a shift. Then a group of 4. And a group of 4. And then repeat those 3 patterns. 4. So what's confusing is at the very beginning, before you start playing that pattern in a repetitive fashion, you're going to start with just a hit of 4. So those first 4 notes that I showed you, that's what I said, it's kind of an outlier. So you play that, then play that exact pattern that we just did from then on out. And that's a way to kind of feel it easily without, kind of confusing yourself and all that great stuff. All right, so at the 7-minute and 53-second mark, we are to that kind of back to that little bend riff that we did before, that little. So we did that earlier. That's at the 7-minute and 53-second mark. And then at the 8-minute and 27-second mark, we go back to that same simple riff that we did earlier at the around 7 minutes and 1 second. So you do that a couple of times again. So we've seen that, yay. So we've already taken care of that. So something new happens though at the 8-minute and 44-second mark. It looks like this. All right, so at the 8-minute and 44-second mark, we're going to start here. These are all power chords here. So we have 7th fret, then the open, and then what we're going to do is at the 3rd fret, do a quick down, up, down, up. So we have this. And then we're going to do 4 hits again here, but on the 4th one, you're going to let go to the open strings. So we have this. And then we're going to play again at the 3rd fret, which is going to, once again, letting go to the open D on the 4th time. So there it is. Right there, one more time. All right, so we basically did a hit of 4, then a hit going to the open, and then do that, repeat that. And then from there we have 3, 10, 5, and now what we're going to do is the same rhythm between 7 and 5 that we did here. So it's like, all right, so instead of do it between these two. And then back to the 3, 0, 7, 0, 3, back to the 3. And this time, instead of going back and playing the riff here, we go 3, 10, 5, 0. When you hit that 0, that's kind of the beginning of the next riff. So all the way through for that riff right there at the 8-minute and 44-second mark. All right, so from there, we get to a pretty simple riff. It is at the 9-minute and 1 second mark. It looks like this. So that's just the power chord, open power chord, then 1, then 8, then open again. This time 3-10. And then you just kind of repeat that for a little while, all right? So we have at the 9-minute and 32-second mark, we have, this section is pretty involved, probably closest to the guitar solo that we could have here. But so let me play through this. This has a wah pedal with it, which I'm not gonna, and there's a few other kind of crazy sound effects going on with it too. I'm just gonna do it with the normal guitar tone so you can hear the notes better. All right, so it sounds like this. All right, so that moves around quite a bit there. So we're going to start with a couple of hits on the low D string. And then, so this is just kind of as he's getting started, and then it starts kind of repeating a little bit easier. Harmonic at the 5th fret of the A, and then the 5th fret of that low D string. So it is. Then back to the open D, so open low D. Then we're going to hammer on 3 to 5 on the low D string, over to 3 on the A string, and then pick that again, hammer on to the 5th fret. So with this. All right, so that is kind of the first half of the riff, and then we have the second half of it, which is this. So that's the low D open, and then this 5th fret there on the A string twice, and then you're going to hammer 3 to 5 on the low D, and then the A. And that's kind of the second half of it. So now we go into like kind of the more consistent version of this riff, which is pretty similar to what we just did. You're going to hit always the low D and then the 5th fret twice there, and you're going to do the hammer on from 3 to 5. That same way that we played it the first time through, after those harmonics. And then the second ending. All right, so that's the actual riff that he's really repeating. He's kind of really repeating that, and he's throwing a couple of variations in there. The bad thing was that variation happened at the very beginning, when he added harmonics, and then started catching the riff, and then the second half with those 2 hammer-ons. And then he repeats the riff without any variations. So now the third time through, he starts playing the riff again. That's normal. Except at the very end, instead of just doing this, 3-5 hammer on from the low D and the A, he does that real quick. So that's just a pretty similar open D, low D, hammer 3-5, then open A, hammer 3-5. So very similar. So far we have this. That's one time through. Twice. Now the third time through the riff is just going to be just like the second time we played. There's no variations going on. All right, so that's 4 times through all together there. And then we start back over again, and this is where he starts mixing it up like this. All right, so I know it gets kind of crazy towards the end. All right, so we've done this so far. so now we're going to start over. So that first half of the riff was normal there. So this is really kind of the 5th time playing the riff. And then here, so we did a little variation there. So that's playing 3/5 on the D and 3/5 on the A. So we have this. Start the riff over again. All right, so that was normal. The first half of the riff was normal, and then we have this, the low D. That when you go to the 5th fret on the A, slide up to 12, and then play 10/12 on the low E, on low D string, sorry, and then 10/12 on the A. So it is. And then from there, you pretend like you're doing the riff, starting over the riff here, but instead of the 3rd fret, you're here at the 10. So it's just like this. Right? And then, so like this. And then we did the low D again. And then when you hit that 12th fret there, after this, slide up and go play 15, 17 on the low D string, and then 15, 17 on the A. So this, from down here, Alright, now we start like we're playing the riff again from there. So it's a low D, low open, 17th fret there on the A string. But here, we're going to just do this. So he changes it from there. So after you've done that, you're going to do this. 15, 17 on the low E, you can hammer it. And then the A, and then the D, then back down to the A. Then scoot that down to the 10th fret, hammer 10 to 12. And then it kind of speeds up. That's the quick little 3 kind of hammer-ons there. So we have open D, hammer on 10, 12. Open D again, hammer on 5, 7. Then the open A, hammer on 3, 5. Alrighty, so pretty straightforward there. Well, not straightforward, kind of odd and crazy. Alright, now from there, we just have this ending, which is all based off of just the open low D chord. So those bottom 3 strings open. And the pattern that we have is this right here. All right, so that's at the, what is that, 10 minute and 3 seconds mark. So now this is a bunch of 4s and 8s. So it's just down, up when you do a 4. And then when you do an 8, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. All right, so obviously the timing, it's the odd time signatures and stuff, but you know, you don't really need to count like all that stuff. You can just count 4 and 8 each time. So we basically start with a 4, 8, 4, 4. All right, so you just saw 4, then I played 8, then a 4 and 4. Then we play 8 again, followed by 2 more 4s. I'm sorry, like this. So altogether, I know it's a bunch of numbers, but as soon as you know the sound of it enough, you won't have to count anymore. But it's just 4, 8, 4, 4. So you can write that down. 4, 8, 4, 4. And then 8, 4, 4. All right, so that's how far we've gotten so far. And then the last 4 groups will be 8, 8, 4, 4. So altogether, just write this down. 4, 8, 4, 4. 8, 4, 4, 8, 8, 4, 4. So we have this. See, they can't fool us. We just got to think of 4s and 8s. We don't have to do all that complex stuff. Anyway, so that is it for the new track. You know, I know years on down the road, people are like, why are you going on a new track? It's new. It just released this week, so that's when this video was filmed. Anyway, so I know some of the ways that this can be played might be slightly different in how Adam Jones plays it, because there are no live videos of him playing this so far, so I have no way of literally checking the exact fingerings that he's using. I think we got it pretty close though, but there might be slight differences of how he plays the notes here or there, or maybe I nailed it. I don't know. We'll see. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon for GuitarLessons365.com.